Okay, welcome to our first webinar for our class building off of our cross-district day. Thank you all for joining us. We have 85 live participants, and I know some of you guys have joined as a team, so that's really exciting. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. This is going to be the first of 4 webinars that we're going to have for the UAA class. It's 555, 801, or 802. And that's Beyond Proficiency, Exploring Growth. And what we've done is we have the ability now to count our cross-district day in August as part of a credit class, as long as we do 15 additional hours. So this year, since we're building off growth, which is a theme in the Anchorage School District, as you heard Superintendent Graff talk about at Cross District, we decided to focus on something that would cut across anyone in any role in the Anchorage School District. So we're going to be talking about growth mindsets over the next 4 webinars. Today, our specific focus is really going to be examining the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So this is a really good opportunity that we now have in the district for you to earn credit and for our investment in you and staff, which is part of our framework for success. And today was the last day to register, so if you haven't had a chance, make sure you get that paper registration in to UAA PACE today or tomorrow morning, and they'll be able to get you all squared away through the UAA system. So, and we'll go throughout the session today. We're going to do content as well as some teaching about what the expectations are of the rest of the class, as well as some of the tools we're going to use to go throughout the semester. My goal for you is to really learn some content that's going to help you grow as a professional, as an educator, help your students grow in their work, but also having the flexibility with how we schedule this and recording it, because I know everyone has busy lives as well. So if there's a time when you can't attend, we're going to be recording these so that you can do follow-up at another time. So we're really trying to be flexible to give you this opportunity to participate in the credit class. So I'm going to take myself off of video now, and we're going to just focus on the PowerPoint and some of the activities that we're going to do today. So because we're participating virtually in the next 4 sessions, and as you can see, there are many, many people on the webinar, we're going to use the following working agreements to maximize learning for everyone who's participating. So you'll need to be responsible for actively listening and participating in activities, and this includes various forms of technology to participate since we aren't together in person. So we're going to be using, as we are today, the webinar text box so that people can respond with their answers. At times we're also going to be using a polling tool so that you can respond to questions and prompts. We're also going to be using Moodle discussion board to respond to different prompts after different webinar sessions, and to because we're a large group, is instead of using the video and audio features of Adobe Connect today, we're going to be using the chat box to document responses. So we're going to ease you into using Adobe Connect as a tool for your professional learning. So as we go throughout this webinar today, if you have a question, please put it in there. Because there's so many people, if we miss it, you can type it in again, but I will be going through these with John at the end just to make sure we address any questions that came up if we missed anyone. And we're also going to be doing some interactive activities where I'm going to have you responding in the text box. Another working agreement is constructive and on-topic comments in the text box. You know, when we're socializing before, that's okay, but once the class starts and we're doing the activities, we want to stay on topic so we can really hear and honor what everyone has to say. And then finally, start and finish on time. My goal is to start promptly at 4 o'clock each time we meet, but then if we're on task and get through the work, finishing a little bit early, because then I'll have some readings and other things you can do on your own time. So those are working agreements as we go through the webinars. And our learning objectives for today specifically are that participants will understand the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. that participants will apply steps to change a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And finally, that you will be able to articulate verbally or in writing why a growth mindset is important in education. So before we get into the content of today's webinar, I want to just start with the agenda so you know what to expect as we go through today. We're going to start with a little housekeeping around the syllabus and expectations, because I know a lot of people have had questions about what to expect for this. So we'll handle some of that at the beginning, and we'll do some of that at the very end as well, just so that you feel confident in being able to go through this course and feel like you have the tools you need to be successful. We're then going to start off with a gathering to connect people and be able to really prime our thinking around growth mindsets as we begin our work together. Then we're going to move into our content, and this is going to be an introduction to what growth mindset is and looking at the difference between fixed and growth mindsets. And we're going to be using some video clips to help us work through this content. And then finally, the last part of the content is how to change your fixed mindset. So we're going to have a reading that you're going to do and do some reflection on during the webinar. And then we'll end with a closing. So as we go through today, there's a couple pieces of some materials that you will need. One, just making sure you have some paper and a pencil or pen, some of our old-fashioned technology, because we'll be using that for some quick writes and stuff like that. We also, today, I sent out an email to all AEA, but I know some of you on email and stuff still, you may not have received this, but there's a mindset notes page you can use for one of the videos to keep track of some of your thinking. And there's a reading that we're going to do, how you can change a fixed mindset. So those are tools that we have. How to download that. If you didn't already download it, that's okay. We have a way that you can download it now, and if you want to print it, you can. So I'm going to turn it over to John just to walk us through this feature of Adobe Connect.
Okay, so you now see a file box, a file sharing box that should be in the middle of your screen. If you click on one of those files, after you select it, you'll see the download file button, and it will download to your computer. You can do that for both files, after which time they will be on your machine, wherever your machine normally downloads your files to. Different people have their machine set for different locations, either the download folder or the desktop are the most common. If you don't have them and can't get at them, it's no big deal, but here's just another way for us to share those files with you. So I'm going to give you another couple seconds to just click on the file name, click on the download file, and that's all it takes to download them. You have to move between screens, obviously, on your computer. If that presents a challenge, then don't worry about it. We don't need it today. But for those of you that are able to move between different screens, then so that's it. I'm going to get it out of the way now.
Thank you, John. We're learning a whole bunch of new technology that I think will be helpful for us in this virtual learning environment. Okay, so I'm going to move this to full screen and go on to the syllabus. Now, I sent out the syllabus in part of the emails, but I know you guys get tons of emails, so I understand that that could be lost in the hustle of all your emails. So just so you know, at the end of the session, we're going to show you how to access all materials for this class on Moodle. So everything that we're going to share today, as well as the syllabus, will be located on the Moodle, so you don't have to search through emails anymore. So let's just go through some of the big ideas of the syllabus so you know what to expect over this semester. When we do meet, it's on Mondays. We scheduled those as days because I think those are the days least likely for you guys to have staff meetings, from 4 to 6. Again, we'll try and get out early on these webinars so that you can do some of the assignments. Today is our first scheduled one, and I talked about what we're going to focus on today. Our next scheduled webinar is Monday, September 28th. And at that webinar, we're going to focus a little bit more in depth on developing a growth mindset as an educator. So how do we reflect on our practices in working with students and other adults in the building in developing our own growth mindsets? On October 26th, we're going to focus on how to develop growth mindset with students. So we're really going to be tying this into our social emotional learning standards, and we're going to be talking about different lessons and activities you can do with kids to help them develop growth mindset. Now, the thing I want you to think about, and I've had some feedback from folks, and I am flexible in this, is that our last meeting was scheduled for December 7th. One of the suggestions was to change it to before everything gets real crazy. So we could change it to November 30th, which is a Monday right after Thanksgiving break. And that last webinar, we're going to really focus on tying it all together, linking it back up with what we did at Cross District, but how we use growth mindsets in supporting our school and district outcomes. So as you can see on this screen, and you'll find this on the Moodle as well, there's a link that you can go to and you can vote on the date that you would most like to have our last class session. And if the majority vote for November 30th, we can switch it. And if people would rather keep it on the 7th, we'll keep it on that day. So just keep that in mind as we're going through the class at the end. And then finally, we are recording all of the webinars. So the purpose in doing this is that so people can go back and view it if they couldn't attend a live one. There will be some interactions. They're not just going to be straight tutorials that you you can benefit from this experience. So don't worry if you can't attend one of those. We have an option for you. Now, as far as the participation and assignments go, some people ask, well, what if I'm not on a live one? How am I expected to participate? Well, again, like I said, we're going to experiment with some new professional learning tools where we can engage people even in recorded webinars. And we're also going to be accessing the discussion board in Moodle to have some participation. As far as assignments go, we'll give an assignment after each webinar, and the first assignment we'll come back to this was in the syllabus part of the final project, but I moved it up as our first assignment while Cross District was fresh in your mind. So what we're going to have you do is write a 2 to 3 page reflection paper to connect what you learned today about growth and fixed mindsets to something you learned in sessions at the August Cross District, whether it be student growth objectives or an instructional practice or an intervention with students. How does this idea of growth and fixed mindsets relate to what you learned? And then for assignments 2 and 3, those will be related to those webinar contents, and we'll give those out at each webinar. And again, there'll be a Moodle discussion board piece for that. And then finally, we'll have a final project, which will be a growth mindset action plan related to what you do in your own practices. So it's not a huge project, it's just a way that you can think about specifically something that you're going to do as an action as a result of this. So I'll provide a template for that at our next webinar. And again, all course materials will be on the Moodle. So that kind of gives you an overview of what you can expect in this webinar. Again, we're trying to make it flexible and be able to meet the needs of everyone who has very busy schedules but yet still wants to grow professionally. So with that, we'll come back to some more business at the very end, but let's move into our content for today. As we move forward, I want to recognize Ann McKay Bryson, who's worked with me on a lot of the content for this and some of our other webinars. And she is one of our CASTLE consultants, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, and is helping ASD in its moving forward with our SEL implementation. So I want to thank her for her work and her contributions today. So as we begin, I want you to think about the power of mindset and think about these statements. The human brain is malleable. We can change the way we feel, think, and act. The way we understand our intelligence and our abilities has a powerful impact on our personal successes. And finally, what we believe about others has a powerful impact on them. For the next 2 minutes, I want you to first identify a word or phrase that resonates with you in these 3 statements. Just a word or a phrase. Just find that, take note of it. And then what I want you to do is type the word or phrase into the chat box and why you chose it. So again, take a look and we'll expand the chat box in a second, but I want you to look at the 3 statements there and identify a word or phrase that resonates with you. Think about why, and then type the word or phrase and why you chose it. If you're working as a group, as a team, and participating, you might want to have this discussion and pick one that you could represent the group. Coming in fast and furious. Abilities having power, malleable, changing the way we feel, the human potential. The mind is a flexible tool. People can change. Powerful impact because what we think about others matters to them. Knowing that that isn't bad, that's just how we think about different things, and it's really thinking about our mindset and how we can shift sometimes when we have a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. So now as we go on, a mindset is a mental attitude that determines how you will interpret and respond to situations. Now, Carol Dweck is the leading researcher on growth mindset in the country. And you're going to watch a short 2-minute video right now with her introducing growth mindset. I want you to think about your experiences in response to mindsets in education.
I think I've always been interested in the question of intelligence, learning, dealing with challenges, and being resilient. And if I had to trace this back, I'd trace it back to my 6th grade class. Our teacher, Mrs. Wilson, seated us around the room in IQ order. It made me really think about, is it fixed? I know these kids. I know they can all learn. I was so aware of how I had loved to learn before, but in that class it was look smart at all cost. I did not want to lose my seat to someone else. In my very first study, I gave kids impossible problems to solve. Some of the kids were thrilled by it. They said things like, "Wow, I love a challenge," or "Yes, I was hoping this would be informative." I looked at them. I thought, where are they from? What do they know? And I really dedicated my career to unlocking their secrets. So the first thing I found was that kids who were excited by challenge didn't see setbacks as reflecting on them or implying incompetence. They saw these as opportunities to learn, and they cherished that. The next thing I learned was that they had different goals. They weren't concerned with looking smart or proving how competent they were. Their goal.
So as you think about your own experience, what I want you to think about is the research around this. The research evidence indicates that students can be taught to opt a growth mindset, and that doing so results in increased motivation as well as higher grades and test scores. Dr. Dweck's research project, she tested the effect of 7th grade students, and this was one of her research studies, 8 25-minute lessons aimed at promoting a growth mindset. And during these lessons, the key message was that learning changes the brain by forming new connections, and that students are in charge of this process. And what they found was that students who were taught about the malleability of intelligence went on to demonstrate higher levels of academic motivation and achievement. So this mental attitude has a huge impact on how students learn and how they progress in school. And right now we're hearing a lot about grit and determination, which is very important, but it's also very much related to this mindset and mental attitude. And that's what we're going to be digging into and really thinking about a little bit more. So as we go on to the what we're going to do is we're going to take a little mindset quiz, and don't worry, you're not going to share your scores with everyone. This is more just to reflect on your own belief systems. And again, we all have both fixed and growth mindsets on different things that happen in our lives, different people we interact with. That's just part of being human. And this is just kind of get us thinking about it. So before we dig deeper, what I want you to do is you'll need a paper and pencil for this part. And I want you to take a paper and number your paper from 1 to 20, going down the page. And I want you to read each item on this slide and indicate whether you strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree with each item. And again, this is for you to do independently. We're not going to be sharing this out. So I'm going to increase the size so that you can see it a little bit more. If you're watching this webinar as a recording later on, please pause the recording at this point to complete the quiz and restart the recording when you're finished. We're going to take 1 minute to complete this quiz right now. And now I want you to go ahead and assign points to each item according to this chart. You'll notice that the items related to fixed mindset are scored 0 for strongly agree, 1 for agree, 2 for disagree, and 3 for strongly disagree. Items for growth mindset are scored inversely, 3 for strongly agree, 2 for agree, 1 for disagree, and 0 for strongly disagree. When you are finished assigning a score for each item, please add up your points to get a total. If you're watching this webinar as a recording, please pause this recording at this point to score your quiz and then restart when you're finished. Okay, so we are going to move on. Again, remember this is scored and we'll post this stuff up on the Moodle. I think it sounds like most people are finished. So as we move on, this chart represents the mindset perceptions based on your ratings. So 60 to 45 points represent a strong growth mindset. 44 to 34 points represents a growth mindset with some fixed ideas. 33 to 21 points represents a fixed mindset with some growth ideas. And then finally, 20 to 0 points represents a strong fixed mindset. Again, thinking about this, the purpose of this activity was really to get you reflecting on what you're thinking and what your experiences have been with ideas of intelligence, student learning, and growth. And just knowing that everyone has both fixed and growth mindsets at different times with different situations. What we're going to do now is we're going to dig in a little bit a little bit more right now to the idea of fixed and growth mindset. And while you were watching this 11-minute video, you can use the mindset graphic organizer that I sent out and that if you had the chance to download. If you don't have it, that's okay. But some of the questions to think about that you can see on this page are, what is a fixed versus a growth mindset? How does a fixed mindset affect me and others? How does a growth mindset affect me and others? And what actions can we take either individually or collectively to support a growth mindset framework in our work? So again, these aren't things you need to type into the chat box. It's really helping you be able to attend and reflect on as you're watching this video. Again, this is an 11-minute video, and it's going to walk us through the differences between growth and fixed mindset.
What do you think is the key to achieving our goals, our success? Some people suggest things like hard work, focus, persistence. But research shows these are all byproducts of something else, something much more powerful that we can all develop. It is this very special something that really is critical to success, and is what I'm here to discuss with you today. Someone who has achieved great success is Josh Waitzkin, a chess international master and the subject of the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer. Nobody has won all the national chess championships that Josh has. But even more impressive, when he turned 21, he took on the challenge of mastering something completely new and very different from chess: martial arts. He realized that he had learned how to grow and succeed, and he could apply that understanding to other domains. And so, he devoted himself relentlessly to Tai Chi Chuan. And after lots of hard work, many failures, and some broken joints, he became a great martial artist, and he won 2 world championships. Now he's off to jiu-jitsu. So what does Josh say is the greatest thing that ever happened to him? Believe it or not, he says, losing my first national chess championship, because it helped me avoid many of the psychological traps. The key trap that Josh avoided was believing that he was special, that he was smarter than other people, and that he didn't have to work hard. He could have thought of himself as a prodigy, but he doesn't think that he has extraordinary intelligence. He says, the moment we believe that success is determined by an ingrained level of ability, we will be brittle in the face of adversity. Josh often quotes Stanford professor Carol Dweck, who discovered that some people see intelligence or abilities as fixed, what is called a fixed mindset, while other people see them, as Josh does, as qualities that can be developed, a growth mindset. More important, Dr. Dweck discovered that these 2 different mindsets lead to very different behaviors and results. In a study she did with Dr. Lisa Blackwell, several hundred 7th graders were surveyed to determine which mindset each student had, and then they were tracked for 2 years. Results showed that the students with a growth mindset, those who thought they could change their own intelligence, increased their grades over time, while those with a fixed mindset did not. You can see the trend. The gap in performance just widens and widens over time. The difference between these 2 groups? a different perspective on intelligence. Other studies have shown similar effects for our mindset about other abilities, like problem solving, playing sports, managing people, or anything else you'd like. Dancing la Macarena. The key to success is not simply effort or focus or resilience, but it is the growth mindset that creates them. The mindset itself is critical. Research shows that when we directly try to build grit or persistence, it is not nearly as effective as addressing the mindset that underlies them. How many of us think of ourselves as not math people, or creative, or sociable, or athletic, or conversely, that we're naturals? If we're to fulfill our potential, we have to start thinking differently. We have to realize that we're not chained to our current capabilities. Neuroscience shows that the brain is very malleable, and we can change our own ability to think and to perform. In fact, many of the most accomplished people of our era were thought of by experts to have no future. People like Charles Darwin, Lucille Ball, Marcel Proust, and many others. But they, along with all great achievers, from Mozart to Einstein, built their abilities. But the key insight that I would like you to walk away with today is that when we realize that we can change our own abilities, when we have a growth mindset, we bring our game to new levels. So how does a growth mindset do that? It turns out that there are physiological manifestations to mindset. Brain scans show that for people with a fixed mindset, the brain becomes most active when receiving information about how the person performed, such as a grade or a score. But for people with a growth mindset, the brain becomes most active when receiving information about what they could do better next time. In other words, people with a fixed mindset worry the most about how they're judged, while those with a growth mindset focus the most on learning. There are other consequences of mindset. People with a fixed mindset see effort as a bad thing, something that only people with low capabilities need, while those with a growth mindset see effort as what makes us smart, as the way to grow. And when they hit a setback or failure, people with a fixed mindset tend to conclude that they're incapable. So to protect their ego, they lose interest or withdraw. We observe that as lack of motivation, but behind it is a fixed mindset. Whereas people with a growth mindset understand that setbacks are part of growth. So when they hit one, they find a way around it, like Josh Waitzkin did when he lost in chess or in martial arts. Research clearly shows these effects of mindset. In one study that Dr. Dweck did with Dr. Claudia Mueller, they had children do a set of puzzles. And then they praised the kids. To some of the kids, they said, "Wow, that's a really good score. You must be smart at this." That's fixed mindset praise because it portrays intelligence or abilities as a fixed quality. To other kids, they said, "Wow, that's a really good score. You must have tried really hard." That's growth mindset praise because it focuses on the process. Then they asked the kids, "Okay, what kind of puzzle would you like to do next? An easy one or a hard one?" The majority of the kids who received the fixed mindset praise chose to do the easy puzzle, while the great majority of those who received the growth mindset praise chose to challenge themselves. Then the researchers gave a hard puzzle to all of the kids because they were interested in seeing what confronting difficulty would do to their performance. Look at what happened when the kids later went back to the set of easier problems that they started with. The kids who received the fixed mindset praise did significantly worse than they had originally, while those who received the growth mindset praise did better. And to top it off, at the very end, kids were asked to report their scores. And the kids who received the fixed mindset praise lied about their scores over 3 times more often than those who received the growth mindset praise. They did not have another way to cope with their failure. The difference between these two groups? One short little sentence. How often do we praise kids for being smart or for being great at something? We've been told that this will raise their self-esteem, but instead, it puts them in a fixed mindset. They become afraid of challenges and they lose confidence when things get hard. As Josh Waitzkin says, it is incredibly important for parents to make their feedback process related, as opposed to praising or criticizing talent. If we win because we're a winner, then when we lose, it must make us a loser. These studies show not only the mechanisms by which mindset affects performance, But they also show something else that's very important. They show that we can change mindsets. And that's important because most of us have fixed mindsets about something. Another study that showed that we can change mindsets is one in which Dweck and Blackwell did a workshop with 7th graders to instill a growth mindset in them. As a result of the workshop, the students gained more interest in learning and they worked harder. And as a result of that, their grades improved. Other studies have shown that when we teach a growth mindset, not only does it improve achievement for students as a whole, but it also narrows the achievement gap because the effects are most pronounced for the students who face negative stereotypes, such as minority students and girls in math. I've spoken mostly about children, but mindset affects all of us. In our workplaces, managers with fixed mindsets don't welcome feedback as much, and they don't mentor employees as much. And employees with growth mindsets about specific skills like negotiations become far better at those skills than people with fixed views. Mindsets can even help us solve big social issues. A recent study showed that when we expose Israelis and Palestinians to the idea that groups can change, they increase their attitudes toward one another, they improve them, and they enhance their willingness to compromise and to work for peace. We also see the effects of mindsets on relationships, sports, health. How is it possible that as a society, we're not asking schools to develop a growth mindset in children? Our myopic efforts to teach them facts, concepts, and even critical thinking skills is likely to fail if we don't also deliberately teach them the essential beliefs that will allow them to succeed, not only in school, but also beyond. There's a lot that we can do to change mindsets, but here are 3 things that any of us can do to instill a growth mindset in ourselves and in those around us. First, recognize that the growth mindset is not only beneficial, but it's also supported by science. Neuroscience shows that the brain changes and becomes more capable when we work hard to improve ourselves. Second, learn and teach others about how to develop our abilities. Learn about deliberate practice and what makes for effective effort. When we understand how to develop our abilities, we strengthen our conviction that we're in charge of them. And third, listen for your fixed mindset voice. And when you hear it, talk back with a growth mindset voice. If you hear, I can't do it, add, yet. My request to you today is that you share this knowledge about the growth mindset with your family, friends, and schools. Potential. Thank you.
About some of the big ahas that you took away from watching this video about fixed versus growth mindset. And I want you to take an opportunity to type some of those ahas into the chat box. We're going to broaden that a little bit now so that you can type in some of the ahas that you noticed. And while you're doing that, I just want to tell you a couple stories about personally related to fixed and growth mindset from my background. As I said earlier, my background is in school psychology. And early in my career, when I was trained as a school psychologist, I was trained in a fixed mindset for intelligence. So one example of this is we used to say, and I used to say this to parents too, that based on a student's cognitive scores on an intelligence test, that a student was a slow learner. Wonderful label to put on a kid. Not really. And it was based on their test scores, and this was truly a fixed mindset. That changed very quickly for me as a professional. As I worked with students and I saw them grow far beyond the expectations as measured on the intelligence test, in part due to growth mindsets of students and their parents and their teachers and the adults around them. So that's one example of how I was taught and had a fixed mindset and how that evolved over time. The other experience is a little bit more personal, and this has to do with a younger sibling who has since passed away, but when he was younger, he was born 3 months premature, and doctors didn't give him much hope. And early on in his life, psychologists and doctors indicated that due to his neurological deficits and low intelligence, they did a lot of intelligence testing with him, he wouldn't be able to communicate with others, with us, with other people in his life, beyond maybe a few signs, hello, those types of things. However, Seth not only learned how to sign over 100 signs, he also was able to put 2 to 3 signs together to communicate. Now, a fixed mindset, if my parents or other people who were working with him had a fixed mindset and accepted that this is how he was born and this is how it was, he probably wouldn't have grown to what he did. However, having a growth mindset and being able to take him where he was and help him expand his skills to the maximum was a growth mindset that he had around his life, and he didn't know any different. And what it's important to know with this is, I'm not saying, and I don't think the researchers are saying that there are some neurological things that go on with kids and people that does impact, things that you're able to do in your life. But having a growth mindset is going to help each and every kid and us as adults in our everyday work and our teaching with kids be able to help them be able to expand and go further in their skill set. So thank you guys for sharing some of the things that you took away from that video on growth mindset. Just to recap some of the differences between a fixed and a growth mindset is that mindsets influence our beliefs about ability, and it affects our decisions related to learning. So when we have a fixed mindset, we believe and we act as if intelligence is a trait. It's something that you're born with. And when we're doing tasks, if you have a fixed mindset, you get it or you don't. And that SMART equals achievement without effort. I think this is a really critical point, is the understanding that if you don't have to work at it, that's what makes you smart. That's a fixed mindset. Oftentimes people, as Eduardo said in the video, give up and they blame others when they have a fixed mindset. As opposed to a growth mindset, where we understand that wherever we're beginning with our skills, intelligence can be trained and grow. And we are always, in everything we do, whether it's education, math, whether it's learning how to play soccer or the piano, learning a new, how to paint, that we are always learning, and that through hard work and effort, those are keys in helping us grow in our different practices in our life. And when we have a growth mindset, we confront some of those deficiencies and weaknesses, and we're able to capitalize on mistakes to be able to grow. So that's important to keep in mind as we're talking about growth mindset. Now I want you to think and take a moment to reflect about the mindsets, and I want you to think about how your growth or fixed mindset affected you as a student. It could be a student in elementary school, high school, college, all throughout your educational career, but think about how a growth or fixed mindset affected you as a student. Now I want you to think about how do you think having a different kind of mindset would have impacted your learning? So based on the mindset you had as a student, how do you think having a different kind of mindset would have impacted your learning? So for example, if you really have examples of how you had a growth mindset as a student, how would have it been different if there was a fixed mindset, or vice versa? And I want you to go ahead and if you are at a group at a school where you're together, go ahead and talk about that. And if you're a singleton doing this on your own with us virtually as a large group, go ahead and type response to number 2 into the chat box. How do you think having a different kind of mindset would have impacted your learning? Getting feedback from teachers. Told you were bad at math because girls. I'm going to have to expand this so I can see it. There we go. You know, it's interesting with the math. I had just the opposite experience when I was in school, in middle school, with having a teacher that had a huge growth mindset, and where I had a fixed mindset and thinking the same thing. I wasn't good at math, but having a teacher with a growth mindset who challenged me and put me in situations with other people to challenge my thinking. So the people around you have a huge impact on your growth mindset. I would have went to college much easier if I had a growth mindset back then. Fixed mindset left me working towards earning a grade rather than absorbing the material. And that there's a big culture of that in different levels of education. Please read the responses of your peers in here. Some really good examples of how a different kind of mindset, whether growth or fixed, would have had a different impact on you. One of the things I want you to think about as you're relating this, especially possibly in your assignments, to what we're doing around student growth objectives with students, and helping each and every student grow and make progress in school, and how that might relate to having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset in student performance. Thank you very much for adding your comments. This is one way that we can kind of connect with each other and really be able to have a conversation without being present with each other and being able to talk to each other. Yeah, fixed mindset oftentimes helps us have that excuse for not taking that leap and participating. Very, very good comment there. Thank you guys for sharing. I hope this is a safe environment as we're being able to work together and seeing how you guys are sharing. And I think it's important to remember these things while we're working with students and thinking about how they're making growth in school and how they're connected to school and our experiences as students as well, and how our mindsets really play into being successful. As you're finishing up the comments, I wanted to just share this cartoon from Calvin and Hobbes, my son's all-time favorite. In this cartoon, Susie says, "What happened to you?" Calvin replies, "Hobbes and I had a frank exchange of ideas." "What are you doing? Homework?" Susie, "I wasn't sure I understood this chapter, so I reviewed my notes from the last chapter, and now I'm rereading this." Calvin, you do all that work?" Susie, well, now I understand it." Huh, I used to think you were smart. So now think about this, and I want you to think about which one has a fixed mindset. Who has a fixed mindset in there? You can just, a couple people can type that in there. Yeah, Calvin. Calvin has a fixed mindset. And Susie in this cartoon, I had to ask who the little girl was, and of course my son told me. Susie has a growth mindset. The understanding that if I go back and review and I go back and learn and I put forth more effort and try, that's helping her grow and understand. So we all have both Calvin and Susie's in our classrooms, and really helping them develop a growth mindset is really critical to adopting learning-oriented behavior that's going to help them be successful in school. So now what we want to do is we've talked about what a mindset and a growth versus a fixed mindset is. And what I want to do now is I want to have some time where you can read about how to change from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So you should have, if you received the email this afternoon, been able to download the document that you can read. So you're going to want to pull that out right now. And what we're going to do is take a pause and have you do some independent reading and reflecting. And I want you to take some time to read this short 2-page article, I think it is, and independently write your thoughts at the end of the reading. What connections are you making? I noticed that some of you had indicated, how do you change a fixed mindset with someone? This is a way that you can build on what was said in the video, how you do some of that self-talk, that listening to your fixed mindset voice. And what do you do when you hear that fixed mindset voice? So we're going to take about 5 minutes to read through this and do some reflection on the connections you're making with changing a fixed mindset. And if you were working as a school team right here, you can read the article and then have that conversation as a group. So if you're watching this webinar as a recording, please pause the recording at this point to respond to the prompts that I'm going to show you, and we'll restart the recording when you're finished. But for now, I think what we might do is try and bring up the document and have it up on the screen, so if anyone didn't have a chance. Okay, all right, we're recording again. So we want to get everyone involved in this who's going to be watching this from a recording. So thank you all for your responses in here. The running analogy I'm going to achieve because of my effort. I love that. The effort that we're putting forth is really, really important. So when we look at growth mindsets, it's important to remember that we all can demonstrate growth mindsets. So as we had talked about in the cross district, if you were in that keynote, if you were at elementary and you're in the Ames Web one, we didn't get to this, but when student and educators have a growth mindset, they understand that intelligence can be developed, and the student focuses on improvement instead of worrying about how smart they are, and they work hard to learn more. And that's the key. And when you're looking at a growth mindset in schools with administrators who have a growth mindset, they're really supporting teachers' learning. They're responsive to feedback, they're seeking to build teacher skills, and they're willing to learn from their own teachers. When we look at teachers with a growth mindset, it's being able to work collaboratively as a team and not thinking you know it all, but learning from other people and knowing that you have something to contribute that could help a peer be able to learn how to do or how to cope with a multi-grade classroom, or a new teacher who's brand new to the Anchorage School District be able to navigate this large system as well as trying to be able to meet the needs of their students. And then of course students who have a growth mindset, they believe and they understand that hard work and perseverance really lead to learning. It's not about just getting a good grade and how smart you are, it's about the process of learning and growing. And that's what we're wanting to build as we go through this webinar. Now I'm going to go back. I think we're going to go back to the PowerPoint now. Thank you, John. John Trampush is on with the technology here. So when we think about growth mindset and we're making the connections, what I want you to also do is make a connection between the growth mindset and our district goals and objectives. And we still have Destination 2020, and these are really our strategic plan and goals for getting all kids proficient and growing academically, feeling safe in school, attending school so that they can learn. But new this year is, as you've heard Superintendent Graff talk about, is the framework for success. Really, it's how are we going to achieve these goals? And the two things that we're really focusing in this webinar series is a focus on student and investment in staff. And that really by developing a deeper mindset around growth as educators, this helps us foster this type of growth within our students through instruction and through our lessons. And those are the kind of connections I want you to really think about as you're doing the readings throughout this webinar series and you're doing the responses on our Moodle discussion board is how are we developing a mindset that's focusing on student and helping us grow as staff within the Anchorage School District. Now, we're going to do a closing now with the content. I told you we were going to get done early because I want to spend a little time having John walk you through the Moodle to give you those skills that you're going to need to be able to access materials as we go through, because we're going to be doing some other things if we get done early that you can do some readings on your own and reflections. But as we're closing today, what I want you to do is a quick write. You're not going to share this part on these 3 questions, but I want you to think now in your work, and it could be related to your family, it could be your classroom, it could be peers, who are you holding a fixed mindset about right now? And 2, what might be different if I could shift my mindset from a fixed mindset? And how might I do that based on what we heard in the video and the article we just read? What are some ways that you could do that? And I just want you to really process this independently right now. And we're going to take a few minutes to do that. And then we'll go on to the next slide. Okay. Now, for the last part of this reflection, this is the part that I do want you to type in the text box as we close out the content and move on to helping you with, again, the Moodle. But I want you to think about our social and emotional competencies in the Anchorage School District and what SEL competencies would help you. So when you look at self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management, and we put some information in there to really have a reflection about what these are, and we're going to be digging more into and relating these to our SEL standards and competencies. But what SEL competency is going to help you to be able to shift that mindset? And go ahead and type those into the chat box right now. Well, thank you for reflecting on that. A lot of self-awareness is a good place to start, to be able to reflect on, how we think and how we're perceiving things in our self-management as well. So I want to thank you guys for participating in this piece of it. And we're going to move on to some of the wrap up pieces about what's expected next so that you can move on with your evening, and then we can know what to expect in the next webinar. So again, one of the things that I'd love for you to do to have a voice and to vote on this is whether the class, we should move it from December 7th to November 30th. And one of the benefits of doing that, and I can do either one, but one of the benefits is we kind of get the last webinar done before things get a little crazy at the end of the semester. So think about that and go to the website that's here, and it will be on the Moodle as well. And then for your assignment number 1 that will be due by the next webinar on September 28th is to write a reflection paper, 2 to 3 pages, and connect what you learned today about growth and fixed mindsets to something you learned in sessions at the August cross district. And we're going to show you that paper is going to be submitted in the Moodle, and we're going to work tutoring right now to learn how to access the Moodle and how to use it as a tool for your learning in this webinar class.
Okay. One thing to point out though, you don't even have to go to the URL for that poll, because at the end of this meeting, if you stay till the end, when I close the meeting, it will teleport you right to where you can vote on your day. So just hang tight, and you don't even have to go chase that down. At the end of the webinar, you'll be taken directly to the place where you can take your vote. So right now, as Jenny pointed out, we're going to be doing most of our reflection and thoughtful interaction in our Moodle site. It's pretty easy to get at. If you just go to the employee portal, you'll see that the Moodle link is right on that page, and all you have to do is click on the Moodle link, whether you've been there or not. First time, it will take you to the Moodle login page. You're just going to put your ASD credentials and whatever password you use for your email and your Zangle, and then you'll click on the login button right there, and that will pop you into the Moodle site. Because you're not enrolled in this course at first, you will have to search for it. And so you go to the search box and start typing in Proficiency, because this class is beyond proficiency. By the time you get even the first 6 letters or more, if you click on the Go button, it will take you to those search things that have proficiency in them, and you'll see that there's only one, Beyond Proficiency. If you just click on that link right there, it will take you to a screen that says, do you want to enroll in this class? There's no enrollment key, there's no secret password, so all you'll do is you'll click on the Enroll Me button, at which point you will then be enrolled in our course site. This is what the course site looks like, and you'll see that both the Carol Dweck and the other videos from today are on that site. So if you didn't get a chance to see them well, you can always review them there. We'll probably put the PowerPoint on the site as well, and pretty much this will be the accumulation of everything. You can see that the course syllabus is up there, but for now what we're going to concentrate on is the homework spot, because that's a little more technical than some things. So when you do your homework assignment, when you add your reflective paper, you're basically going to go and click on the homework assignment 1 link, which will take you to the page. You see that The instructions are there, and when you're ready to add your contribution, if you go to the little reply box, always in the lower right-hand corner of whatever you want to reply to, and click on it, it will then take you to your own window where you really have a chance to input three different things. You have a chance to change the subject heading. You can leave it as homework assignment number one, but if you have kind of a distilled, pithy thought about your paper, that would be a great place to put it. In the body of the message, which is typically what most discussions have, we're going to just put something real small, but the attachment place is where you're going to add your paper. So we're going to look at all of those a little bit, but the main thing to point out is that the body of the message for this is very simple. You're not going to put your 3-page paper, copy and paste it in there. You're just going to put what you teach and where you teach it, and then you're going to concentrate on really putting your paper down in the attachment area. So where it says attachment, you're going to just click add, and that will allow you to come to the window where your file picker is located. There's lots of places you could have files on the Moodle site, but you're going to upload a file. By clicking on the upload file button, it will take you to a place that lets you then choose where that file is. By clicking on that, it will allow you to browse your computer till you can locate your file, at which point, once you select the file that you want to add, you'll see that the choose option then becomes available to you. It wasn't available till you've selected something, at which point it does become available. Simply choose the file you want off your computer, and you will then see it up there. Now, I want to say something about naming conventions. Since there's going to be 150 of these papers coming in, it would be really nice if you would use your last name underscore first, so that it's easy to keep track of. And then you'll notice here, that's just Beyond Proficiency number 1, BP1. So the first assignment is just BP1. So if you would, when you're loading your file up after you've written, if you use your name in there and BP1, it'll be easy for who's ever going to be grading these to be able to see whose papers are there right away, so they can help people stay on top of things. So once you have your file chosen, you're just going to hit the upload this file button, and voila, you will then be seeing a spinning wheel, which tells you it's going to load, and it may take a little time. So don't get frustrated if it takes a little time. But eventually, it will bring you back to your the place where the body of your text is. But you'll notice that down there you have your file now, and when you hit post to forum, that's the final step. It will actually post your message to the forum. You'll see your text. You'll see your file that's attached. And if you decide you need to go back at some point and change something, you do have the option of editing. So you can always go back and modify something as long as the edit is there. These steps were a little quick, and it's conceivable that you might want to see that again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tutorial of those steps right on the Moodle site. So once you're on the Moodle, you should be able to review that if that was a little fast for you. But it's pretty straightforward. And don't hang up, don't leave, because you're going to get teleported after Jenny has her.
I love it. I get to have the last words. No chocolate in the room. Man, I wish I could give you guys all chocolate. I want to thank you for thinking together about this powerful idea tonight. Just as a reminder, you can access the information for the assignment on that Moodle, and we will get you, if you can go on and register for it, that's how we'll communicate with you about the different assignments and postings. Again, the assignment one is connect what you learned today about growth and fixed mindsets to something you learned in sessions at the August Cross District. And you're going to find, we're going to continue to post lots of resources for you. So like we said, we'll put the PowerPoint on there. You also might want to use these videos with students. We're also going to start building different lessons you can do with students. So for example, the quiz mindset, Judd's put something together that we'll have on there that you can use, and take a look at it and whether it's appropriate for your age range and stuff, but you could use that with students as well. So that will be really helpful. Maybe possible post videos and handouts to the Moodle for the next test. Absolutely. That's the whole point of using the Moodle, is we want to start posting this before so you can access the materials, not just on the day of. It was a little challenging to do that now because a lot of people are still registering for the class. So that's why, unfortunately, I had to send those massive emails to all of AEA. But we will make sure that those are on the weekend before, that probably that Thursday before, so that you have a chance to look at the materials and have it for the next class. And let's see, our next class is September 28th from 4 to 6, and we are going to be focusing developing a growth mindset as an educator and how we can go deeper into that in our planning and working with one another. So I think that's it for today. I promised you I'd get you out early, and I'm going to honor that promise. And I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And we will work on getting this posted, the recording of this and the PowerPoint up tomorrow for sure, the PowerPoint, and then the recording either tomorrow afternoon or Wednesday morning. So I want to thank